on radiation processing of food. Now, as I told you about the technology background, also covered it in the chronological developments. So, as you can see, uh, earliest patent was a British patent in 1905, followed by a US patent in 1918 and a German patent in 1930. Uh, Actually, there was some negative connotation developed about the technology after World War II because anything which is related to radiation was tied to Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing. Uh, but on the positive side, there was a lot of development because the new equipment came in the form of accelerators. Large scale production of radioisotopes was available, and also there was a lot of support, financial support from U.S. Atomic Energy Commission and Navy and Army. In India, of course, around the same time, Dr. Bhabha was the first chairperson of the first international conference on peaceful uses of atomic energy in Geneva in August 1955. And as a result of his vision, where he could see that this technology can play a very important role in preservation of food, so in 1965, construction of food irradiation processing laboratory started uh, in present campus of BARC, and there was a food package radiator which was commissioned in 1967 in Fipli, whereas in around 67 to 73, using this food package radiator, there were a lot of large scale studies carried out with Food Corporation of India and National Horticultural Research Development Foundation, uh, currently NAFED, uh, and seeking approval for the process. When these things were going on, there were some studies which were initiated at the behest of Ministry of Health at National Institute of Nutrition, and some experiments which indicated that there is an increase in polyploidy in children fed irradiated wheat. So this created a kind of fear around use of irradiated food, and later on these studies became the subject of international discussion and also international confirmation using same experimental regime which NIN had done. But it was later on found that NIN studies were very badly planned and very badly conducted, and therefore there was no basis of attributing any polyploidic changes in children fed irradiated diet. And thereafter, a fresh wave of safety assessment started from 1973 to 1986, and where again, technology was looked, or irradiated food uh, were tested on various aspects of food safety, and none of those studies gave any adverse effect. And as I told you in my previous lecture, that as a result of that, international approval came. The Codex Alimentarius approved it, followed by several institutions around the world. Now, also, I have mentioned the sources of radiation earlier, but we can divide them into two. These are the sources which are legally permitted. These are radioisotopic sources and machine sources. So, radioisotopes are um, cobalt 60 and cesium 137. Cobalt 60 is typical a metallic source, whereas cesium 137 is a salt in the form of pellets. In terms of half-life, cobalt 60 is 5.3 years and cesium 137 is 30 years. A specific activity is 1 to 400 curie per gram for cobalt 60, which is used, and cesium chloride can have from 1 to 25 curie per gram. Uh, Also, gamma energy in case of cesium is almost half that of cobalt 60. As you can see here, cobalt 60 has two gamma rays, 1.17 to 1.33 million, and second is 1.33 million electron volts, whereas cesium 137 is 660 keV or 0.66 MeV. Dose rate again for a 10,000 curie source or 10 kilocurie source is around zero point 0.9 kilogray or around say 1 kilogray per hour, whereas cesium has almost one fifth of that is around 0.221 kilogray per hour. So this table shows that for making portable type of radiators, one would use cesium 137, and for stationary or big large source utilization, cobalt 60 would be useful because shielding uh, would be less than half in case of cesium 137 compared to cobalt 60. So it is easier to make portable sources using cesium 137 irradiators. Uh, on the other hand, we have machine sources. As I told you, we can use either electron beams, which are accelerated. Power can be variable in both EV and X-rays, whereas energy is fixed for electron beam not to exceed 10 million electron volts, whereas in case of X-rays, one can go up to 5 MeV, at the most 7 MeV under certain conditions as approved by US FDA and also in India using tantalum source. Now penetration of EB is low, being particulate material, so it's about 3 to 4 centimeter water equivalent, whereas when converted into X-rays the same can be 30 to 40 centimeter. So this is an advantage if you convert electron beam into X-rays, that you get as much penetration as you would normally get from radionuclide sources. Now, for putting any technology in marketplace or for commercialization, you need technical and regulatory approvals. Now, technical feasibility, processing, packaging, and storage conditions need to be standardized uh, for every commodity, and work done in FTD, BRC is actually mainly geared towards standardization of the technology for a number of products or any new food product or allied food product to be tested. FTD is the leading laboratory, but other institutions can also undertake such work. Now, if you want to use this technology commercially, you need certain approvals. First approval that a facility needs is from Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, and this is under Atomic Energy Act rules. This ensures that proper safety mechanisms are in place in a facility for its use in public domain. Then we have PFA Act rules, which have been now replaced by Food Safety and Standards Act rules under Department of Health. Then we have plant protection and quarantine regulations, which are under Department of Agriculture. This is under DIP Act, that is Destructive Insect Pest Act, 1944. The rules of the importing country in case of exportable items. So if we are exporting something irradiated to a country, then first of all we need to get approval as per the regulations of that country. First of all, the irradiated products should be allowed in that country, and the many countries want that irradiated or irradiation facilities should be approved by them at first place. For example, US or UK insist on approving the facility first before importing irradiated material into their country. Uh, One has to, you can see that irradiation facility needs licenses from AERB, DAE, FDA, FSSAI, and National Plant Protection Organization. For international trade, as per importers' requirement, regulations of, for example, European Union, USDA APHIS, that means US Department of Agriculture, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, or US FDA come into picture. Besides that, it is very important that irradiation facility has trained manpower, so operators and RSOs, which are trained by AERB or BRC, they only can run the facility uh, for technical purpose. Otherwise, it can be managed by others. But operators and RSO has to be have to be certified by uh, AERB. So these are the major regulations: Atomic Energy Radiation Processing of Food and Allied Product Rules 2012, Food Safety and Standards, Food Product Standards and Food Additives Amendment Regulations 2016, Plant Quarantine Regulations of Import into India Order 2003-2004, and for irradiation of Ayurvedic herbs and herbal products, directions issued by Ministry of Ayush in 2012. Now, these are, to tell you in brief, irradiation is a relatively simple procedure. All you see in a irradiation facility, there is a source in the center and around which the product is moved around. And so goes inside a shielded area. As you can see here, the shielded area could be around 2 to 2.5 meter thick concrete, which prevents any radiation from coming out to uh, the area which is where open movement of people is there. So irradiation is carried out inside this cell, and no radiation escapes from this cell. The cobalt 60 source is actually stored under water. There is a water pool which is about 6 to 7 meter deep pool, and uh, these are the racks where the pencils of cobalt 60 are placed, and before irradiation, or as the irradiation starts, this rack is pulled up and comes right here in the center, around which the conveyors move around. And when the inlet conveyor takes the commodity inside and moves it around, and then from an outlet conveyor it it comes out and unloaded here. As you can see, this is the conveyor which is bringing the product out after irradiation. So during its passage, after entering the cell and going through the radiation source or going around the radiation source, it receives the required dose, and in this process, uh, irradiation source never comes in touch with the food product. It's actually these pencils, they remain in the center. In fact, there is a shroud around these pencils, so that the source never comes in touch with food. It's the radiation which is coming out from the this source, which is gamma ray or gamma rays, which strike the product material, and uh, the mechanisms takes care of two-sided irradiation. That means from first it sees the A side, and then it is flipped around to see the B side, and during this process a dose uniformity is maintained um, while irradiating the material. In case of electron beam and X-rays, things are simple, because electron beams or X-rays are directional irradiations. So you can see this is a scanning horn from, so electron beam comes out from the gun, gets accelerated in an acceleration cavity, and then, it directly falls on the product which is below here, coming under in a conveyor. Uh, in between, if you wish, you can have here the X-ray converter, where electron beams strike the converter material, which could be tungsten, gold, or any other high Z material, and um, get converted into X-rays, which fall into on the material. So these are the in principle the mechanism in a facility which takes care of radiation processing. Everything is remote controlled by operator who are sitting outside the irradiation cell and managing the conveyor movements and source start or source lifting, as in case of gamma radiation plant. Also, there is no access, personal access to the irradiation cell. There is no unauthorized entry uh, of personnel inside irradiation cell. When it is required to be serviced, then all precautions are taken. That source is housed inside the pool here in the storage pool, so that no irradiation comes out, so person can go in and access uh, the the cell for any repairs. And same thing happens in case of electron beam plant. No authorized access is there when plant is working. Only when the radiation is switched off and after some cooling time, and in case of gamma radiation plant, after all the gases are exhausted, because there is some ozone production is also there uh, when irradiation is taking place. So there are mechanisms to flush out uh, any ozone buildup in a radiation facility. Only then a person can enter it for any servicing or other requirements. Now, irradiation can do several things. It can be applied to get benefits for grains and grain products, fruits, tomato, onion, and potato, and other vegetables, including cut and packed vegetables, mushrooms. It can be used for honey, where some bacterial contamination is there, and you can remove that microbial contamination in honey. Meat and fish for extending the shelf life or getting rid of pathogens and parasites. Ambient stable foods, that means foods which are ready to eat and which can stay very long, as I told you in case of astronaut rations. Foods for disaster, adventure, forces, astronauts, uh, cut flowers, loose as well as bulk, cattle feed and pet feed, packaging materials and containers, food ingredients and additives, herbal and Ayurvedic preparations. Again, Ministry of Ayush has also has a direction whereby Ayurvedic products and herbals can be irradiated up to 10 kilogram dose for getting rid of micro microbial loads. Now, as we can see in supply chain, there are several problems related to, first of all, post-harvest losses which may occur, and this is all depends on the perishable nature of food, which I told you in my last lecture. Food is inherently perishable in nature. Yeah, so we have to, do certain processing or keep the temperatures controlled so that we reduce these losses. Uh, so post-harvest handling, storage, transport, processing, and distribution, they all involve losses, and we want to minimize these losses. Then there are food safety risks, because when we are handling or transporting food, there is a risk of infestation and risk of contamination, natural. And there are issues which have come to light of deliberate contamination may also be tried by people who want to exploit certain microorganisms for their lethal um, purpose. Also, in trade, finding market access, as I told you, quarantine treatment. For example, if you want to find market access for your fruits and vegetables, you have to manage all the quarantine pests. So in trade related issues, it can be very handy. meeting standards of quality and quarantine. So many countries today have standards for food products and also the quarantine requirements. So all these are issues which are related to supply chain. And last time I think I tried to tell something about it. Now, so you can have several technological objectives which are related to the slide which I showed you on low dose, medium dose, high dose applications of irradiation. And in typically in this slide you can see, on the right hand side, uh, typically low doses up to 1 kilogram dose, we can have, for example, physiological improvement like control of sprouting, delay of ripening, delay of senescence in fruits and vegetables, insect disinfestation, which is killing of storage insects, killing of quarantine pests, and in medium doses, typically pasteurization, which kills parasites, bacterial pathogens, uh, killing of mold spores and molds, which particularly produce mycotoxins. And in high doses, we have sterilization applications, getting rid of all microorganisms. And when you're giving high doses to prevent any, you know, um, any side effects like changes in flavor and all, to minimize them, we do irradiation at high doses on very low temperature. So that is one requirement that is has to be fulfilled while applying very high doses. So you can increase shelf life, you can increase have increased market access, especially international market access, ensure food safety and quality, and you can have long-term shelf stable products. These are the big benefits that accrue from processing using ionizing radiation. So by around say 2000, we had come to fairly good understanding of the effect of irradiation on different food commodities. And one of the food commodities that we found was very amenable to radiation was the spices and condiments, or spice mixes, or dry ingredients. And and um, India is the largest producer and consumer of spices. Also, being a cold technology, cold pasteurization was very, very suitable for applying to spices and spice mixes and condiments. So, Department of Atomic Energy set up the first technology demonstration plant, which is radiation processing plant at Washi, which was designed to carry out 30 tons of spices per day. Because it's a high dose radiation, around 10 kilograms applied. The volumes you can um, you know produce, or the throughputs which can be managed, is around 30 tons per day. But you can have maybe higher throughputs if you have uh, higher source tanks, maybe 2 to 3 million curies. Here in Vashi we have around 500 to 600 kilocuries source. The other technology demonstration plant was set up at Lasalgaon, was Krushak Agro Produce Irradiator, and this was mainly designed initially to have sprout inhibition, or show the technology for sprout inhibition of onion, because as you know, Nasik district is the largest producer of onion, and it is exported, as well as provides onion to the rest of the country in a big way. So this plant, which was actually called potato onion irradiator to begin with, was set up in 2006, um, and a lot of demonstration of beneficial effects to onion, potato, garlic, and disinfestation of grain were shown using this facility. In 2007, actually, there was a request from Ministry of Agriculture for you know using this technology for export of mangoes to US, and so we retrofitted this plant and uh, did some changes in this plant for quarantine treatment as suggested by US FDA, and we got approval of this facility from USDA APHIS rather in 2007, and since then it is continuously exporting mangoes to US. Uh, Besides mangoes, other commodities which have been tested on large scales are, for example, pomegranate, another commodity from Maharashtra, which can be, which can benefit from this technology. And this is the inside of a radiator. It's a actually a um, hanging conveyor system. So all these, these are actually boxes, product boxes, in which for example, here we have cartons of mangoes, but earlier we had designed it to have sacks of potatoes or onions which can be placed here. So almost 200 kilogram of onion or potato can be put in one carton, and then through a hanging monorail system, these are conveyed inside the irradiation cell where it receives the desired dose, and then they are brought out on the other side. So this is basically the uh, this two technology demonstration plants showed the way for private entrepreneurs, and some idea of the costs of setting up these facilities. For example, uh, to set up a gamma radiation plant, the capital cost required is around 15 crores, whereas for electron beam facility, same would be around 22 to 25 crores. Annual O&M costs are also say 4 crore for gamma radiation plant, around 6 crores for electron beam plant, and throughput at 1 kilogram dose is around 7 tons per hour for gamma radiation facility, uh, which is around say 500 kilocurie uh, facility, I would say, and for electron beam at 10 MeV, 15 tons per hour. So plant availability is around say 7,200 hours per year, and the cost of processing at say 1 kilogram dose would be around say 1 rupee per kilogram of material. It can be lesser also if the volumes are really very high. As I told you, when these demonstration plants were set up, many private entrepreneurs have come up. You can see some of them are listed here. We have around 20 private entrepreneurs who have an MOU with the Board of Radiation and Isotope Technology, and they have set up their plants, and all of them are right now gamma radiation based. None of the plants here is electron beam based. So, um, people have learned found this technology useful, and uh, many of them are using it for a um, mix of products. It's not just food or agriculture commodities, but these facilities have been used for even medical products. They have been used for cattle feed or pet feed. So because agriculture commodities are seasonal and regional in nature, their production and access vary from time to time. So these facilities, to make economic sense, have to be multi-product facility or multitasking facilities. Very few of them are just food products, but they are free to carry out a range of food products, and if they can cover from low dose application to high dose applications, economically it is good for the facility. Now, see, Doing business using radiation technology is rather easy, I would say, because everything is in place. Um, we have, as a country, we are the largest producer of agricultural commodities. Um, we are the largest, actually, even consumers, and even Indian consumers deserve better quality food products. We have long supply chains compared to other countries. It is told that we have around 10 to 12 steps in between, say, farmers and the consumer. If there are long supply chain, you need to secure the product using latest technology. There is a huge domestic market, and our distances are really large. They are as good as international distances. There is uh, also consumer acceptance. Earlier, there was this issue that whether consumer would accept irradiated product or not. But now it is learned that consumer, when he has the right information, and when he is aware that technology is being used to improve its safety and quality, then doesn't even mind paying little bit more for a irradiated commodity. So it is a this is the radiora symbol that you see here. This symbol indicates the if it is there. It is different from the signal which is having connotation with the danger of radiation, as you might see. Symbol which is there on radioisotopes containers. That's signal is for danger of radiation source, or else whenever there is a radiation source, in outside there will be a three leaf yellow kind of symbol which indicates that there is a danger of irradiation or a radioisotope is there. But this symbol should not be confused with that symbol. This is a radiura symbol, which is more of a you know uh, irradiation of agriculture product, and it should be taken as a positive symbol indicating that the product is good after has safety and security is taken care of the product when this symbol is there. So there is a proven technology, there is expert technical assistance available from BRC and other organizations. Also now there is a government support for this technology. There is uh, good legislative mechanism in place for taking care of regulatory issues. There is also policy backing uh, from the government to use this technology. So what actually is required is a planned uh, phase out of chemical fumigants from food ecosystem. So if we phase out chemical fumigants, this technology provides an alternative. Of course, this has to be used in conjunction with the good storage practices. Also, it has, many people think that once you irradiate, cold chain will be obviated or it will not be required. But I that remains very much part of the system, and one has to upgrade packaging, because you cannot depend on the jute bag kind of packing or packaging using this technology. Also, radiora symbol should be promoted as a symbol of quality, safety, and health. Now, as far as policy backing is concerned, as I was telling you, recently, in fact, last year, Government of India has taken big bold steps related to the technology under Atmanirbhar Bharat program, where they have indicated atomic energy related reforms which establish one is of course related to research reactors in PPP mode, which is for health sector, that is public private mode of executing the technology. Uh, Establish facilities in PPP mode to use irradiation technology for food preservation to complement agricultural reforms and assist farmers. So, this public-private partnership would have helped in a big way if these new agricultural reforms, which farmers are resisting, but this complements very well with the agricultural reforms using this technology, and link India's robust startup ecosystem to nuclear sector, where technology development come incubation centers will be set up for fostering synergy between research facilities and tech entrepreneurs. So, uh, in fact, DAE has already initiated development of incubation centers where these technologies can be demonstrated to private and entrepreneurs to run them in PPP mode. These three regulations were actually complementary because one was, of course, ordinance to create one India, one agriculture market, or like anyone can go anywhere and sell his product. So there was no issue of, say, Nashik onion coming to Gujarat or Gujarat onion going somewhere else. One could sell. There should not be any restriction in interstate trade, so that people can buy, carry out processing, and store it. Also, there was this agreement on price assurance and farm services ordinance, which farmers can directly engage with processors, aggregators, or wholesalers, uh, you know, and sell their products. So the idea was to eliminate these steps that we have, as I told you, around 12 to 15 steps in between going from farmer to consumer, and this the role of the middleman which was there. So it was basically to eliminate that. This would have taken care of, and Essential Commodities Act was also amended to see that um, uh, people could really process large quantities and also store them. So business people should not be harassed on for storing the product before or after irradiation until it is released into the market. So all these three amendments would have been very complementary, or are actually very complementary to the absorption of this technology. So I hope this will go through, and the technology will get an acceleration in acceptance and use in public domain. Okay, so that is probably the uh, last slide, where last time Dr. Tomer told me that we should have some references for further reading, to know more about the technology, and to see where it stands. So I have a list of, I have not given a big list, but very important ones where you can get very good idea about this entire technology, uh, where for example, uh, in case of here, I have given only for radiation processing of food, where we can begin with by looking at a document, which is a very small book, and it is available in most libraries and certainly in BRC laboratory. But I'm sure this copy is also available on the internet, which is Wholesomeness of Irradiated Food in 1980, the first report of FAO, IAEA, WHO Expert Committee on Food Irradiation. This is very small document and very lucid and simple to understand. And this is where up to 10 kilograde dose was approved, but it gives you all the basics of food irradiation. After that, in 1999, there was another document by same FAO, IAEA, WHO. If you can have a look at that also, which allows higher doses of irradiation, where limit on 10 kilogram was lifted. So this is FAO, IEA, WHO documents. Then I had written a review with Dr. PM Nair, who was then my boss in food technology division. Uh, we have in Encyclopedia of Agriculture Sciences by Academic Press, New York, where this very simple, uh, lucid detail of food irradiation process has been provided. Uh, then there is a very good book by Deal, JF, in 1995. There's a second edition of this book available, CRC Press, which again gives the entire issue related to safety of irradiated foods. He has dealt it in great detail and is very good book to look at. How the safety was questioned, how it was answered, and how nothing was later on found to allow this to be used in public domain. Then we, along with Dr. Mittal, I wrote a book chapter, which is Radiation Technology for Preventing Foodborne Infections and Intoxications of Microbial Origin in Recent Advances in Communication, Communicable and Non-Communicable Diseases. This is again a book by Capital Publishing Company, New Delhi. If you can lay your hands on it, you can see the safety aspects of irradiated food, which are described in big detail. But recently, I would say, to cover everything up, if you want to see the developments to the course of history, you can have see this book. If it is certainly there in BRC library, but should be available elsewhere. In chapter 7 of the book, I have written a chapter on ionizing radiation in food preservation. This book is by Cambridge Scholar Publishing, UK, and this is the main page or title page of the book. This is edited by Dr. Gopinath and Dr. Ramurthy. So, uh, so this is if you go through it, and today everything is available on the internet. You will find several good reports. But I want to caution you that at many places you will find also misleading information related to this. Especially, I was surprised to see that even my name has been hijacked, or my identity has been stolen by some another Arun Sharma. In if you look at ResearchGate and look at food irradiation, you will find Arun Sharma, which is affiliated to some other organization, and so many times internet is misleading. But essentially, uh, if you go to the source, basic source, there are several good papers on radiation processing uh, you can look at. Um, I'm not giving you because I didn't know that this will be coming up. But for mutation breeding part, maybe Dr. Tomar, I'll send you the references at a later date.